What is the crack, folks? How are we all keeping? How is the new year going for you all? We're just waiting on our guest to get the old finger out. He seems to be running a bit late all of a sudden, which is entertaining in and of itself. But we'll get there. I hope you've all had good holidays. I hope you've all got yourselves some decent loot over the holiday season and get yourselves something good to get painting. It sounds like a DM has arrived. The bollocks. I'll move you down to the other. So we'll get him on there. He's finally arrived. What bleeding time do you call this, huh? The cheek. The absolute bleeding cheek. What do I have to put up with? But yeah, we're going to be doing a bit of hobby today. I have a few bits and pieces. And we shall check and see out. So we have Dim with us today. Hey, the hobby git. He's finally graced us with his presence. Oh, I feel...
Clock at 10 to, and then I looked back at the clock and it was like, oh.
10 to taking the play. I swear to God, some of us are trying to run, an outfit that resembles something somewhat semi-professional. I mean, it's not exactly successful in that regard, but I at least try. You know what I mean? I do try. But yeah, I hope you're all having a bit of crack. We have Gitman here, we have Essex Boys, and we have Lorcan. Gubbins Git is here as well. What are you going to be working on? Oh, you're well caffeinated, are you? I'm running off of tea and fucking this mango monster stuff, which is super sweet.
I have some Battletech to paint.
Oh yes, Battletech. Oh look, well hold on. We've got guest close camps. One fucking. You have a raven. What else have you got?
Bet you'd be raving about that one.
Oh Jesus! You're on thin ice already. Don't push your luck.
Yeah. 2 locusts.
Pair of locusts. Or locoi or...
Hashtag best mech.
It's good mech. I do like the locust.
And then a catapult.
And the old catapult. Look at you.
Yeah. Although I don't know if I'm going to touch them because I've still got anxiety about colour schemes. So
just do like a generic military colour then. Do generic.
No. I've got an idea. It's just it seems silly, but I'm going to paint one of the locusts and see how it goes. Is currently the plan.
Oh, nice. Very good. Well, I've got a lance here that I made up. So I've got like a king crab. So this comes in like one of the Comstar box sets. I have one of the archers from the Alpha Strike box set, the new archer. And I have 2 grasshoppers. So I'm going to be throwing a bit of paint on them. And I'm probably going to paint them up in my tournament colour scheme / Irish national colours. It's a nice green. I like the green though. It's a nice green. But there's the Thunderbolt.
Just make sure it's not done in error.
You're getting stabbed when I see you next. I swear to God. You saying Gitman saying he's very quiet? Who's very quiet? Me or Dim or?
Is it me?
Well, hold on. I can crank up your old desktop audio there. That probably helps there. Different levels messing around. Lorcan is saying, I really want CGL to actually take the money for the Leviathan's backer so I can actually figure out how much money I've got remaining in the Nerd Fund. Ah, I see. So you're locked into more Kickstarter shenanigans. Yeah, fair play to you there, bud. Fair play to you. I had a look at the previous iteration of Leviathans. For those who don't know, Catalyst Games Lab, who do Battletech, also have like an airship combat game that comes with like pre-painted minis, and it's sort of like a hex combat game as well. And it's all like steampunk airship shenanigans. I'm sure it'll scratch some people's itches, but I haven't played it yet myself, so I have not made a verdict as of yet. But Lorcan is definitely a fan. Lorcan is saying, mate, I'm giving Catalyst like 1,400 quid for it. I mean, yeah, that's yeah. Like the last Kickstarter that they did for Battletech, I went a bit nuts. But mind you, that was me starting into Battletech, so you're allowed going nuts initially. You know what I mean? That's allowed, isn't it, Tim? That's allowed.
Yeah, well, I did. So yeah.
You went a bit nuts as well. I think most people that joined in on the Kickstarter went a bit crazy. It was good crack though.
I mean, I didn't go as crazy as you, but I
But
got
yeah,
quite a
there
lot.
wasn't many who did. So if I was saying, if you squint your eyes and use much imagination, the king crab claws look slightly like one of the weapons from Halo. Oh, is it like the needle gun or the? I remember back in Halo 2 there was the giant laser that was like shoulder mounted that took forever to charge up. Is that the one you're on about? That was great. I remember back in the day in college, like killing 3 of my mates with one blast. It was brilliant. It happened once. It never happened again, but it was epic. Absolutely epic. So
I
paint
was going to
job
say
boys.
there must be something in BattleTech that is channeling Scarab energy. There must be the big quadrupedal walker things. There must be something about BattleTech that's
Oh
that
yeah,
big.
there's loads. There's quad mix. There's quad mix to beat the band. Like they're all over the shop. I think the only one I've used is it the Scorpion. Like you can do weird things with quad mix. Like their hit location table is slightly different. So if they get partial cover, like they're really hard to hit because they've no arms to hit. It's legs. Yeah. So like you can only hit them in the torso with their head. And then some of them have like some shenanigans where they've like got a turret and stuff. Like I can do all sorts of weird things with quad mix. They're interesting looking. They're a bit odd, but like they're pretty cool. Govern's Gate was saying Spartan laser. Yep, that's the one. Gateman is talking about orcs. Knobs are the work of the day. Big choppers and tank buster knob. All very good. I had actually started painting up some stone boys after we had our big meetup, but then I remembered, oh yeah, Battletech. And so didn't finish them off, but they had more painting them, so that's progress.
I mean, I can whip my knob out.
I think you'll be arrested and my channel will be cancelled. I'd prefer if you didn't. Oh, that knob. All right, Grant. I don't mind.
Oh, that's.
It's a bit out of focus, but it's there. That's what counts.
I mean, to be honest, I think probably after we've nattered for a bit, and I've got something to actually show for myself other than like undercoated mechs.
I mean, that's what I do myself. There's nothing wrong with undercoat mechs. Mechs with undercoat on them are still mechs that have gotten paint on them. You know what I mean? You're talking to the man who undercoats his mechs with a brush still, like a mad scone. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I've got an airbrush and an airbrush boot, and I use airbrush undercoat, but like I painted on, just for the therapy of it. Well, what color scheme are you going with, Tim? What like are you making your own house unit, or have you picked a house that you like the sound of, or have you been looking into the lore? Like, what have you been looking at? Come on, tell us.
So, for clans it was easy. Snow Ravens. I liked the color scheme. I liked the lore. I liked the fact they weren't that enamored with the battle mechs because I'm waiting for the tanks and the planes to arrive.
Oh, yeah,
I
next
very much want. I want probably more than that. I just want fucking billions of Edgars for days. But when it came to Inner Sphere, I had to do a lot of digging around because I sort of like all of them. Like I was slightly leaning towards Steiner, but in the end, I went with the Free Worlds League. So I went with sort of House Malik. I liked Malik. I liked the idea of. I like the fact that oh, hang on a minute. Sorry.
You like Marek, do you?
Yeah, yeah. I just do. I don't know why. I like the fact that there's always blood feuds, and that just amuses me. So I thought about the idea of having like a breakaway sect. So like they're nominally still Free Worlds League, but they're very very anti.
But they've broken away and very independent. That's very that's very Free Worlds League. Yeah. It's like, oh, we're part of the club, but fuck you guys. That's very House Marek.
Because it seems like the kind of mech that I really like seems to have roughly the same shape. I'm going with a sort of birdie theme. Because obviously, well, for one thing, I've got a raven, and I want more ravens.
You like ravens, do you?
I think it's probably my favorite looking mech. I think.
I
also, yeah. It's difficult though because there's a lot of good looking.
There's a lot of really nice sculpts. There really are.
I mean, I've got my Marauder 2 here, and I just really, really like the Marauder 2. It's just so sexy.
It is a nice mech. It's an absolutely cracking looking mech. It's not one I really like. I did the event, the Battletech Savage Box Advent Calendar over the whole of December, and there's some really cracking mechs there. But the one that really surprised me, and I really like the look of it, it's a really nice sculpt, really crisp, is the Nova Cat. I think that Nova Cat sculpt is amazing looking. It's absolutely cracking. It was the last one, the last video there. See if I can grab one. I'm literally storing all of me clan mechs in a in a sweets tin because there's a load of them. But if I can find the Nova Cat here, I mean, there's Daishis, the Beta Band, Masakaris, Locusts. There's a bit of everything. But
I always thought your favourite one to look at.
I don't know where the hell I put it. You know what I mean? If I was going to talk about my favourite scub, you'd think I'd have it to hand and be prepared beforehand, but you know, apparently not. That's asking a bit much, apparently. Anyway, there's an Nova Cat in there somewhere. I think I've 2 or 3 of them. But it's a really nice sculpt. They're really classy looking. We have a few more faces showing up. So if I say somewhere on YouTube is the full cartoon series called Fang of the Dugram, where mechs are different names. Oh yeah, that's where the Shadowhawk and such. Really classy looking. Lorcan is saying the new Snow Raven mech in recognition guide Clan 29 is hilarious. Is that the Charger one or which one is that? We have Renegade here. I ran out of bases, so I'm making some out of cork board and glossy cardstock. I mean, if it works, man. Gubbins Gate Raven is very cheeky. Tag and Narc is good combo. They're very cheeky. They are indeed. That sort of advanced tech in them. They can be hilarious. Whenever we're playing MechWarrior 5 as well, you can tell when one of them's around. Your screen starts going a bit all fuzzy from the interference, which you'll find hilarious. Solvent Abuse has showed up. What's the crack, Dread? How are you doing, bud? See, I know more than one Dread. Are you still into your Machina Krieger, or what are you up to these days? Interesting to see what he's up to. Lorcan is saying, yeah, the Charger C is now a Snow Raven design. The one with all the heavy. Oh yeah, man. That looks absolutely class. It's got like loads of heavy lasers and it runs a lot and it's hilarious. It's funny. Cool. I like it. Mind you, I like the Charger 181, so that's not surprising. Sci-fi. You plan on painting a lance in the MechWarrior 5 colours. Which MechWarrior 5 colours? Because there's a few different colours that we do. Usually, you like to go for the Franken mech, I think it is, paint. Whereas I do sort of the tricolour that I normally do. And then Josh has a different colour scheme. And
usually, I just like to repaint Scar's mechs.
Yeah, just to wind me up, you bastard. And you're not the only one either. It's like, oh, look, someone's repainted my mech again. But I have to say, that game was massively improved with other players because the AI is just not up to snuff. It really isn't. And it's to be expected.
I think it's pig poo.
Salvant or Dread was saying, reading a lot of RPG stuff and building some GW kits, not much else. Oh, alright, cool. What RPG stuff are you reading? Is it Paranoia? It seems to be having a resurgence lately. Was there like a new reprint of it, or
Troubleshooter Edition? Yeah, they did a Kickstarter and did like a new rulebook run, and they're starting to do the supplements again. I stick with Paranoia XP because that's the edition that I started, and I amassed all the books for it, so why wouldn't I stick with it? I guess. I need a base.
I bought in like a Time of War, the RPG for Battletech, but I literally haven't even looked at it yet. I've got like the MechWarrior Destiny and stuff, but that's about as far as I've gotten on the old RPG front. I haven't really dabbled with much. I've just been too busy with Battletech.
Yeah, I mean, I could hijack this entire thing and talk about Paranoia for hours. But the way to probably sum it up in a short amount of words is is that take every bit of dystopian fiction, add in a quite dark sense of humor, and then have players be just slightly above the lowest echelon of social class,
Hmm.
for the most part, and they're going around troubleshooting, which means shooting trouble and each other.
Ah, right.
And
Okay.
troubleshooters are tasked with rooting out members of secret societies and putting them before the friend computer, rooting out mutants, and rooting out commies. And it's very American setting, a lot of satire, as you might imagine. And there's a slight problem for the troubleshooters because they're all mutants and they're all members of secret societies.
Right. Okay.
And it's an RPG that thrives best when you get your players to backstab the shit out of each other.
Right. Okay. It's one of
There's
those.
There's a
Very tongue in
section
cheek,
of
is it?
yeah. I mean, it's got the best rule ever designed for an RPG, which is it is against the rules. Well, it's in-universe treason, and treason is punishable by death. It is in-universe treason for a player of a troubleshooter to know any of the rules of the game.
Hmm.
Which means the DM can make it all, the GM can make it all up.
All right. Okay, I get you. That's against those. Well, actually, guys,
I'd better be careful not to say DM in case Wizards of the Coast try to monetize your channel.
it'd have to be monetized in the first place, mate.
Or get you to pay a license fee.
or one of them.
Yeah.
Sci-fi is saying, yeah, Americlance with 4 different color schemes. I mean, that's on the cards, man. We could do. We have a lot of mechs from the Salvage Box Advent Calendar event. So we could do. We could try. I could try and pull together the lance, but I don't think we have the Jenner in plastic yet. I have to wait for the old hero Jenner or the old Jenner in plastic, and then. I mean, I could do up our mercenary lance that we normally run, like we did. We've different variants between the lights, the fire starters, the Jenner. Yeah, we could always put Josh in an archer just out of spite, like, you know. Like I was saying, I still do plan to do a mere company from the new plastics, each with a different pride flag as their colours, and call it the Pansy Division. I mean, you can if you want. There's nobody stopping you. Sci-fi. I had an Aliens RPG by Leading Edge, I think, but left it at a mate's and never got it back. A Time of War is very crunchy system. I'd expect it to be so, taking into account it's the RPG system for the Battletech game. Someone's saying Wrath and Glory, the 40k RPG, and Warhammer Fantasy RPG by Cubicle 7. Oh, very nice. They're actually an Irish company. I saw them at Galcon last year. I think they even do like a Doctor Who. I think I sent you images of that, Tim, didn't I? That they had like a limited edition Doctor Who RPG Cubicle 7. But they're an Irish crowd. They seem pretty cool.
Oh, cool.
The Gitman said, I found an old bucket of Army Painter Dark Tone and it looks a lot more like it's normal house paint, which I don't know if it's salvageable or not. Yes, apparently it's like a varnish. If it's the tin, mix the absolute bejesus out of it before you go and hear it. That would probably help. What else? What can I say? They used to do Paranoia at QCon on the last day of the con every year, and when the game was over, the PCs and the GM would march into the main hall singing the Alpha Complex Anthem. I have no idea what the Alpha Complex Anthem is, but okay. BC saying, Paranoia, I remember a mission where we had 150% casualties in the mission briefing room. I love it.
Oh, that's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing I need to mention is that because it seems like, oh, you can get killed very easily. Yes, you can frequently, but cloning. So.
Oh, okay. So don't get too upset if you die.
You get killed, and then you have a clone that replaces you. In the default game, you have 6 clones, and then you have to make a new character. But there can be versions of the game where you have more, and a lot of it's done for rule of fun rather than. Although obviously the GM's still being malicious, but
so it's a very sort of tongue-in-cheek type of game, then, is it? It's just like, let's have a bit of crack.
Yeah, it's largely for fun. There's a whole section of the rulebook that tells the GM how to get his place to be entertaining. So, because the whole idea is basically the players need to entertain you, and you reward them for being entertaining. And as a consequence, because they're entertaining the DM, and because the DM is playing off that, everybody should ideally have fun. But you kind of have to be a little bit mean as the DM, because you principally represent a thing called Friend Computer, which is a computer that an AI that runs the entire the bunker that you're in, the sort of post-nuclear apocalypse bunker that you live in, called Alpha Complex, and the computer is insane. So yeah, there is not really many ways that you can survive, and on top of that, you've also got You've also got the fact that it gets reprogrammed by the high programmers, who are basically the guys at the top of the society, and they sometimes mess with computers programming, either to help themselves out, to win a bet, for fun, because they're a member of the Def Leppard secret society, so for fun.
Right, okay.
Def Leppard are basically somewhere between anarchists and pranksters, and kind of both at the same time. They're my favorite secret society. Oh, Ghostbusters, an RPG.
Walker is saying the Jenner's in the Kickstarter. It's not the Jenner I meant. I meant to say the Javelin. Sorry. Normally, when we do the Light Lance and MechWarrior 5, I get the hero variant of the Javelin, which I don't think's been done yet. The Jenner has been done, and I'm not too enamored with the old sculpt.
I was going to say we were bitching about how terrible.
We were bitching about that Jenner. Yeah, it's not the Mae West looking. I have to say, it's a bit skew. If there are way better looking new sculpts than it. I mean, if I could get my hand on some 3D printed Jenners, I'd be way more happier to feel than them than the actual plastics. But you know, that's the beauty of Battletech, I suppose, is the fact that you can have old sculpts, new sculpts, and like 3D sculpts all on the same table, because, you know, there's different factories and, you know, different nations build them and all this type of shenanigans, you know. There's in-law reasons for variability. So you're saying Dim's not meant to be drinking coffee this late? No, he'll be bouncing off the walls. There'll be no sending him to bed at all at a reasonable hour. Lorcan, wasn't the second piece of GM's advice in the original edition of Paranoia, kill the bastards?
Yeah, that sounds right. I mean, I've only played, the first edition I ever played was XP. The only edition I've played is XP. But that would not surprise me at all.
It's that type of game. Sounds very sort of Rick Priestley comedy or sense of humor.
Yeah, I'm using 2000 AD, like Rick Priestley did, as kind of a source for inspiration on plots and world building, is a good shout.
Right, okay.
It's that mixture of humorous and depressing, and you kind of enjoy the society reading about it, but you'd never want to live in it because you'd be dead in seconds, kind of situation.
BC is saying Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters International by West End Games are both hilarious too. They were written by the same folks who wrote a lot of Call of Cthulhu. I've never played Call of Cthulhu stuff.
Good, it's good.
The games were the origin of the West End's famous D6 game. Never heard of it. Pretty sure the Javelin is in the Mercs Kickstarter, says Lorcan. I believe it is, so we might be able to build our mercenary light lance and do appropriate colour schemes once I get my hand on a new one. That'd be pretty sweet. And the Firestarter as well. Isn't the Firestarter coming out in the mercenary Kickstarter, I believe? Because normally that's what Sci-Fi rocks around in, as a Firestarter. And what did we normally have you in, Dim?
Spider. I really like the Spider.
So we already have the Spider.
I have a Spider on the way. Well, I say on the way. I ordered a couple of lance packs from Alchemist or Alchemy Workshop. I can never remember which way it is. I think it's Alchemist Workshop. but it hasn't been sent yet.
Mm.
I'm a little miffed because I was hoping to have them today.
To get them painted.
Yeah, because well, for one thing, I ordered a bushwhacker and I'm really looking forward to the bushwhacker. But there was a bunch of mechs, but I seem to be like I thought I would be sort of just all into the clan stuff by now, but I'm very much leaning in the direction of the Innisphere.
Well, like it's
Which is unusual for me because normally, I mean, I gravitate towards them because they're kind of underdogs, which I like. It's a thing I look for. But I also tend to go for villain factions because I tend to find them more interesting. So I was kind of surprised, really.
Well, see, they're all bastards, Dim. All of them. You know what I mean? Nobody's the good guy.
Yeah.
They're all a shower of bastards, which is great.
Yeah, it's grey and grey morality, isn't it? Rather than 40k's blue and orange morality, it's called.
Well, yeah, something like that. There's a bit more depth to it, I would say. But then I didn't get too heavy into the 40k lore outside of orcs.
I know quite a lot, but mostly through osmosis. And also, I ended up having to learn things just to understand orcs.
Ah, right, I get you. Just for the context of it.
I mean, I started with Space Marines like most people my age did. But
Great primers here. Hey, Nick. Just popped in time to hear shenanigans. PC is saying new sculpts and all sculpts only when scale's a thing. Speaking of which, I'm painting Primaris. Oh, very good. Yeah, some of the old sculpt stuff can be way out of scale. Be pretty hilarious. Lorcan is saying the Firestarter is definitely in the new Kickstarter. Yeah, so okay, there we go. Look, after the next Kickstarter, we can get that Mercenary Lance painted up and designed. That's on the to-do list, so I wonder... I don't know if we're going to get the miniatures off of it this year. I'd be very surprised. I'd expect it next year. All things dependent. I mean, the turnover for the last Kickstarter was actually pretty good, taking into account, you know, it was during the middle of the pandemic went off during it, you know. Everything got a bit kiboshed. And I have to say, any issues I had with me Kickstarter, they got sorted. There was some absolutely hilarious issues with my Kickstarter. I bought like there was like a t-shirt bundle where it was like 30 t-shirts. And they'd mislabeled it. So the t-shirt collection bundle was on a single t-shirt. So instead of the 30 I was expecting, I got like 1. I was like, what's the story here, lads? But yeah, I got sorted in the end, thank you.
I didn't get one. I still haven't contacted them about the Shuttle One fighter that I should have.
Sweet Jesus, man, I said that to you months ago. Months and months ago. Get the blading finger out, will you?
I have finally found a use for game color black. Well, I say that actually, I already had one use for it, but it's very glossy. The game color one. It's like if you want like a matte black and you flail, get the model color one because this is very, very glossy. Works out it's very good for painting black leather, but other than that, it's too glossy. But for a bunch of mechs as a base coat, I think it's looking all right. I'm toying with the idea of leaving them mostly black with probably some edge highlighting and trying to get ink to do most of the work for me. But
mate, dry brush them. Fucking,
decided.
They've got the detail and the scale for it. Just give them a light dry brush and then throw a wash over it. Like, you'd be laughing.
Because I'm kind of going for sort of a rough, kind of crow-ish color scheme. So grey is a highlight, and then I'm going to throw some orange in there for the beak. I'm going to use orange for the basically the windows. And then I don't know what I'm doing about the legs though. The legs are giving me problems.
Yeah. Well, why don't you leave the legs black and then just do the feet like sort of the whatever color their claws are or whatever?
I'm half tempted to try like a the skin tone color and see how it looks, but
Give it a
I think
bash.
I think I might just wreck the things. I should have grabbed a mech I'm not planning to use.
Do you know what I found really useful? Some of them Napoleonics I got from Wargaming Illustrated as test paint
From
miniatures.
Willis Illustrated, yeah.
There you go. See, I was like, oh, will this greyish blue work with a wash from me mix? And it's like, oh, some French infantry, 28mm scale, they'll do. There's a few more questions in the chat. We have Sovereign Abuse asking, are you going to make a Battletech table? I will eventually make a Battletech table. I've been dabbling with a few little bits and pieces, kind of like effects, which I keep forgetting to bring to battle reports, but some like explosions and stuff. So I'm starting to make some bits and pieces, you know, some bits of, what would you call them? Points of interest, especially during a battle report if I'm taking pictures of stuff instead of just like telling people, oh, this blew up. You know what I mean? I'll take an image when something specific happens in a battle report and you'll see explosions, and I'll put down like I have smoke markers as well, or fire markers, you know, some interesting tidbits, and yeah, eventually I'll be leaning into making terrain and getting 3D terrain sorted for some of the neoprene mats, so we have a Battletech table going, but I'm more focused on mix at the moment, so all in good time. It won't be any time soon. But yeah, it'll be something that'll happen down the road. More going to be focusing on mix this year. Getting the mix that I do have painted. You know? Who else is saying bits and pieces here? Great primer. I was painting a section of the wall in the Imperial Palace on Terra today. Jesus, fair play to you. Were you using the old brush or roller? BC is saying West End's D6 Star Wars RPG was the game that kept Star Wars fans together during the late 80s and 90s. Okay. Sovereign Abuse. I've seen a drop pod on here over there. Was a 3D print, I think. Ah, yes. Quite a lot of 3D print designs knocking around. Some really nice ones as well. Lorcan is saying a great primer doesn't count when you're painting your shed. It's where the wall is going to be in 28,000 years. BC's cheering for likes. Fair play to you, bud. Fair play. So if I was saying the light lance was the javelin, the fire starter spider, and another light. Yeah, that's true. Like normally, did we do like 2 fire starters? I think I get the feeling we had like 2 fire starters. That tended to be the way. I'd rock like the hero javelin because it was awesome sauce. You loved your spider. Sci-Fi was forever going for the old hero fire starter as well. And then Josh, I think, used to go for a fire starter too.
Yeah, but then once we started getting well into it, it would very quickly turn into catties and marauders.
But true, but then it just depends on the mission type. Of like if you're doing the demolition missions, it's just run in, wreck the place, and run out. Don't even bother engaging with the enemy.
Yeah, true.
You know what I mean? Like I used to find that funny is if you're doing a single player mission and you're going in to do a demolition, it's like, yeah, I'll just tell the rest of the team to stay back in base so they don't take damage, and I'll just run in, gun nail the walls, and mission complete. Run out for extraction and try not to get too badly damaged. And usually you make bank. You know what I mean? It's all about the old profit margins. It's not always about killing the enemy mechs, especially when you don't have the salvage rights to take advantage of knocking out enemy mechs. You don't have to kill them, avoid them. Especially if it's not in your mission type. You never know. Hooker saying on the t-shirt front, you know about the redacted and redacted to link with the redacted. No, I don't. I literally don't know. Oh, is that the thing you were talking about? Maybe I do know about something. I don't know. I'll have to... Maybe. Sci-fi. When effects are used in YouTube bat reps, would the audience be treated as animated effects too? I mean, I don't have the technical ability to be pulling that sort of shenanigans out. Crisp and to the point. That's what I plan on doing with battle reports. You get summaries. Like the type of battle report I want to record isn't like hours long. I mean, some people love that sort of thing, but I like doing the nice intros where you get to see the variants of the mech, and I just do turn summaries usually or phase summaries if something happens, and then I like usually you'll get like an image or a highlight point if something special happens. You know, like if somebody's ammo gets detonated in the shooting phase or whatever, and that's tends to be the format I've settled on, and it kind of helps as well.
It's not like with Steve-O where it's like,
oh, every dice roll. No,
every dice roll.
No. Roll every dice roll like it. No. Unless there's something specific. Like unless there's a specific dice roll, it's like, but yeah, generally I'll show it after the fact. It's like, oh look, we've rolled pilot consciousness roll, and this is what he rolled, Snake Eyes, so he's out cold. You know what I mean? But no, not unless there's something specific that needs to be shown. I'm not into showing all of the dice rolls and every minute detail. But then there isn't. There's different folks want to watch different things, so I'm sure there's a market for that as well.
Yeah, but I mean, with Battletech, it's like it's a lot of rolling 2d6, followed by 2d6, followed by 2d6, and it just like I'll give this for 40k, like because you're just chucking so many dice, you're gonna get all sorts of stories out of the dice. It was better when the game had other things that helped that narrative thing, but apparently tournament players don't like templates.
I love how we're like balls deep in talking about Battletech, but yet you still manage to find a way to be like, fuck 40k.
No, I wasn't even going there. I was just like...
And yet that's where you landed. I love it. I mean, I'm not going to stop you. I just find it.
Well, no. I was just thinking to myself, like, it's interesting that Battletech with just 2d6 is able to probably tell more of a story with those 2d6 than a lot of systems manage to do.
Well, yeah, because there's more detail in rolling a 2d6 dice roll. Yeah. Like we were talking to Sai before earlier today, like, and the difference, talking about the difference between a d12 and even like a d12 being sort of more interesting than a d6. Like rolling a d12 in comparison to rolling 2d6, the bell curve that you have in randomness, as opposed to a 1 in 12 chance, you're getting your like 1 in 36 chance for the far ends of the table, for head hits and for like, critical hits. For those of you who don't know, if you roll like double 6, you'll get like a head hit against the mech, and then if you roll like double 1, you have a chance of getting a critical on the center torso. So they're 1 in 36 chances, and then you're more likely to get a center torso hit. You know what I mean? I don't know the percentages off the top of my head, but it's probably somewhere in the 20% or something like that. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like, it's a bell curve. You know what I mean? It's like 7's in the middle, 12's at one end, and 1's at the other. So the distribution's interesting, and that's I like that mechanic about the game, where it's more interesting than just rolling a single d6. And then if you have multiple to the same weapon, you just roll all your pairs of d6 at the same time. Lorcan is saying talk to him on Thursday. He's like, shh, we'll say no more. No. The walls have ears. Comstar are everywhere. They're listening all the time. Mad Cat was saying, what Mercenary Lance Pack are you looking forward to getting? What Mercenary Lance Pack am I looking forward to getting? Oh, that's a good question, actually. Which ones are we getting? The Roughnecks or something like that? I run a store for the local club, the local Battletech club, so we're going to be able to get one of the Lance Packs in off of our distributors. So I don't know if I'll be able to get swaps off of some folks in the States. I'm sure there's some people. I might talk to some folk I know, and see if I can get some swaps going, and see if I can get my hands on all of the mercenary box sets. That would be pretty cool. But yeah, like
That's the thing that Catalyst needs to figure the fuck out.
what?
It's just there are places other than America that like your merch as Catalyst.
True, but a large percentage of their market is the States, so I can understand. But that's like the
Yeah, but
age-old thing that we were having with GW is they ignored the
Space
States.
Marines, though. That's
Yeah.
like that's why Space Marines always get releases. Why do Space Marines always get releases? Oh, because they sell. Why do they sell? Oh, because we always make things for them. It's like, yeah, and if you made things for other things, they'd sell.
They get there eventually, but they're growing the market. They're actually getting there.
I have to say, like recently, they have been doing more variety.
Yeah.
Still 50 bazillion Primaris lieutenants, all of whom do not need to exist, nor do Primaris. But like, they're still managing to realize it a little better than they did.
I thought we were talking about Catalyst and mechs being bought, they're being left, right, and centre. Like the amount of box sets, they popped up the stats for them. Like the amount of box sets that they're pumping out now, Catalyst is crazy.
Oh, it's good. I mean, that was the thing that was really holding Battletech back was the
miniatures and accessibility. Yeah, being able to buy them. That's what stopped me from back in the early, back in 2004, 2005, when I discovered the game. That's what sort of stopped me from getting into the hobby back then. Was I really loved the rule sets, but I wasn't too fond of the old schooly sculpts. Some of them were nice, but the majority of them were a bit naff for me, and they were expensive to get a hold of, and they were hard to get a hold of in Ireland. You know what I mean? It was a combination of factors, whereas the game's kind of exploded now that there's decent look at this fucking king crab, look at it, dirty. It's way better than the previous sculpt. Holy Jesus, great crack. I'm loving it. I think it's
I really like the king crab.
It's a great mech. Look at it. What? One AC20, how's about a pair for you there, bud? One, you shut your face now, don't you? Huh?
Is the king crab clan? Is
it? Look, it's an inner sphere mech, but there's nothing stopping you from having it in your clan stuff. There's the same with your inner sphere stuff. There's nothing stopping you from having clan stuff.
You know what I mean? I thought I would start. Well, because I'm trying to learn the lore whilst playing the game and not really coming at it with much knowledge of the lore.
Well, yeah, you can come at it from a few different angles.
Well, yeah, but I'm trying to kind of stick to what's typically belongs to each one, so it'll help me learn basically. But yeah, it's cool like that because, I mean, it wouldn't be difficult to justify because you just go, oh well, my faction found one and fixed it, and there it is, it works.
So if I said he was hoping for a bat rep in the form of the hired steel animation. Lorcan is saying Snords irregulars. I think that's the one, yeah. Essex was saying every dice roll and all chemical weapons attacks should be recorded. No. Go ask Steve-O. Get him to do a Battletech battle report. You'll get every dice roll. Lorcan is saying Hobby Git just struck my favourite thing about the Battletech, the story that's told in every game. Yeah, because it is always different. If we played the same miniatures on the same table, you'll get a different result.
It's what I kind of live for, really, when I'm gaming. Gaming's probably the thing that affects me the least. I would say that's probably one of the reasons why I've really struggled to get into these small miniature games, even though I've always had kind of an admiration for them. I've always liked War Master, but I've only played it twice. I've always liked the idea of Battletech. I've always liked the idea of Drop Zone Commander, which is the other thing I'm working on today.
Oh yeah, you were making Drop Zone Commander stuff, weren't you?
But to me, there's not much hobby in that because it's just you can convert that stuff, but I mean, every time you change skill, you're relearning your skill set because almost every trick that you've got, if you think about it, your trick is based on making something that you're using or something that you're working on work in the skill you're working in. And the second you move to another one, the trick doesn't work the same way. because you've found a way to make it just work so that you can't see the issues. And then the second you move it to something else, unless you're like an artistic prodigy, you've probably got to do an adjustment and try
Oh
something
yeah, there's going to
different.
be some transition, but it's not going to be like, I don't think it's going to be a massive overhaul, you know?
Oh, I was thinking particularly like my sort of, it's not my expertise. Somehow people on the internet think my expertise is green stuff. It's not. But with green stuff, I can imagine if I moved scale, I'd probably have to do a few things a little differently to make it work. Some of my skills would cross over, but half of it wouldn't.
Yeah,
Because
I think you sort of do have to change your approach. Like painting some of the infantry up for Battletech was a bit different, but also interesting at the same time.
well, that I'm familiar with because I have painted up 10 mil armies and 6 mil armies. So I was aware that I went into it thinking, oh, this is just like painting Warhammer, but smaller. No, it freaking well isn't.
No, no.
I mean, I would say once you realize what you're doing, it's so easy. It's so easy. But you do have to do some adjustment. You do have to learn some new skills. You've kind of got to learn to trust the, because like people, I know we in the wargaming world and the ostensibly Warhammer centric sort of, and the people who lean in the alternatives sort of world, we call our inks and our shades and our contrasts and our not contrasts. We tend to call those liquid talent, but we don't really, well, until contrast came along, we don't really tend to rely on them and trust that they're going to do the job. Like tends to be a little bit tentative, and you 28 mil people always overcompensate. They always put way too much in before they add the ink because they're always thinking, well, the ink's not going to do what I want it to. I'm going to have to be careful. I'm going to have to do this and this and this to make sure that the ink works. And with 10 mil and below, you just trust that it's going to do something, and it will.
Oh yeah, like throwing a wash on 10 or 6 mil figures, it's like Jesus.
Yeah, it just does the job because it can't not. Because
Yeah.
like you've got just enough detail, and that just enough detail is there to make it pop the second you add ink, and it does. It really does. So long as you do your basing and your layering right, and I mean detail wise, you can do detail. I've seen people do detail.
I mean, but like the detail for the
Don't
6
know
mil stuff
how.
I was painting, it was like gun is metal, visor is gold, boots are black, done. It's like
I've seen people who've painted faces on 10 mil Napoleonics.
I mean, I do skin color, but I don't do like their face or eyes or shit. I've done a bit of skin color on bare faces, but that's about it.
Guessing they use a microscope and like a brush with a single hair on it.
That's just bleeding nuts.
It just have to be something that level of crazy in order to get the effect. This paint is taking ages to dry, by the way. Like,
It would do.
I'm literally watching paint dry. This is, yeah.
Lorcan was saying, go on.
I was just going to say that's why I haven't switched camera, because nobody wants to watch paint dry.
I mean, they're watching paint getting painted, and I'm sure folk are staying busy themselves, so we're all in the same boat here. As I was saying, Lorcan was saying, King Crab was originally a Star League design, so it went on the Exodus. I don't think there are any Clan Tech upgrades, but there's definitely ones in Brian Cash's. So there you go. They took them with them. There's absolutely not a reason for there to be no King Crabs knocking around.
Also, BC, yes, I saw the comment about the Space Marines, the 5'6" Space Marines. Yes, I do love those. Well, Space Marines boring.
What, Rogue Trader era ones?
I mean, if I collected Space Marines, I would collect Space Marines to look like second edition Space Marines. But I suppose, like, it's sort of a bit of certain things that you incline towards in a relationship, where it's like, I want to be hurt in the way I'm used to being hurt. Give me some of that. And that's kind of what I'm going for, because that's where I started. I started with Second Ed, really. I've got Rogue Trader books, but I never played it. Well, I've played it once, and I didn't really get it.
It didn't scratch any itches for you, know.
Like, we are all nostalgic for the aesthetic that we started with, right? That's a big thing, and I'm very nostalgic for Second. I've been. It's in the back burner, and it might not get done for a very, very long time. But I have penciled in plans to make a Plasticard replica of the Imperial Firebase. If anybody remembers that from back in the days when GW did card and
train.
kits.
Yeah.
It's like the big flat one with the sort of the raised platforms and the gun shields. I've always wanted to make that. And I'm going to try and make. I figured I'd probably be able to find the dimensions online and make the basic shape so I've got the right size, and then just try and do the detail a little better, and probably even throw some bulkheads in. I've got loads of bulkheads.
I'd be surprised if you couldn't find the PDFs online. They must be out there because there's a load of them for the Gorka Morka ones.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like the towers and stuff that was in White Dwarf magazines as well. Like
the fort, the fort always makes me laugh because it's both too big and too small. But it was a great kit at the time. It was a really, really cool piece of terrain.
Ah, yeah. No, I love that fort.
Very banged up one that just about holds together, but it's seen better days.
I think you're right though. I think you are right. It's like, it's too small. You know what I mean? It really is, but it's like it's okay. Like it works for what it is.
It does well. It's that problem you get with the abstraction of wargaming. It is too small to fit your mob in really comfortably, but it is too big to go on a table because it's too much of the board.
Yeah.
Especially if you're playing on a 4x4, which a lot of Gorka Morka players did.
Yeah, well, I think you'd have to sort of play with the fort kind of the way that I remember Warhammer sort of Siege being played, where it was like, right, we put a wall along one side of the table edge, that's the fort or whatever. Do you know what I mean? That'll give you the sort of the play area. And I mean, you're gonna kind of lose some of the dynamism or whatever of the game where you're going around the fort. You know what I mean? Because you'd want to with your vehicles. Well, if it was big enough, I suppose if you were like assaulting Mechtown or whatever, you'd be like, we're assaulting one of the gates and here's ye walls, you know what I mean? And fucking go nuts.
Si's saying he's got an unbuilt firebase in his loft.
Ooh, is it in that shed of yours that's slowly falling apart? Gee, Jesus, if so, you better fucking rescue it. Boy, Jesus.
Of course you have, you goblin. Of course you do. Should have known.
My cat is saying all my Iron Metal mechs in storage, only the Bushwhacker was broken. Oh, okay, that's not bad. It's not bad going, that. BC says that reminds me I have to finish my Land Raider for my Orc boys. Ooh.
Is this like a classic Andy C. tiered battle wagon?
Oh, yeah.
Land Raider.
Schwank, that would.
Extra bonus points if you use the new one in the Horus Heresy kit. I mean, it's a lot of money to throw out to get that Land Raider, but it is sexy, mind.
It's always about rule of kill with Orcs, man.
Nice kit.
Always about rule of kill. Does it look decent? Yes, then do it.
I mean, because that's the thing that always surprised me when you see sort of discourse of like 40k online and you encounter people talking about orc players and you get to the issue of like
we're nuts.
Conversions. Well, we are nuts, but aside of that, that's a given. But like just the idea of conversions and looted wagons and things like that, and like kind of dismissed under the veil of proxy, because if you hadn't noticed, GW's got a bit of an officialdom problem. But like a lot of people seem to imply that the reason we do this is to be cheap. Like we'll get dollar store toys and things.
Oh, no. Some of the conversions I've seen.
For every one person who's done that, right? Yes, there are the handful of people who have bought nothing but Plasticard, but then they've made something that looks like Forge World could sell it. You know, I've seen some absolutely amazing scratch builds, but at the same time, I've seen some amazing kit bashes, and I tend to be on the kit bash front. I probably make up for your Plasticard people. Like, there's just as many orc players that just go, you know what I would really like to do? I would really like to bash these 3 kits together to make one thing. So there you go. You've bought 3 things to make one thing.
Yeah, so
maybe the marketing department could count that up and see how much money they've made. It's like like, yeah, exactly. Because there will always be people in a hobby that have to count the budget, and there will always be people who don't. And the people who don't often make up for the people who do. And the people who do inspire, and they're inspiring for free. I mean, it's one of the things that bewilders me about some people's in the hobby's attitude towards conversions, because it's just like you can't get better publicity than that. You can't get better advertising for a thing that you like than that. Like somebody taking something and going, well, it's such a good kit that you can make it look nothing like the kit.
Mm. But that is a
And
sign
it
of a good
still looks
kit for
great.
like for certain hobbyists though, is this is a great kit for bits. It's like the Stomper. You know,
Mm.
some people love it because it's a great kit for bits, but they actually hate it for just like assembling it as it is. You know what I mean? It's like, this is a great kit if you want to build something else. If you want to stomp it, it's terrible. You know?
Yeah, well, the Stomper does look like me in a nudie, and I'm wearing one now conveniently. I'm not going to stand up because you shouldn't be subjected to that. But
Thank you for
even
sparing us.
well, it might still happen because I will probably switch cameras at some
Oh,
point.
sweet Jesus.
But
Gonna have to psych
well,
myself up. Lorcan is saying, like how somebody may have
yeah.
scanned in all the buildings from the Alpha Strike box and printed out many copies to make a cardboard city. We won't say any names, Lorcan. You know?
I do want to have a crack. I do want to have crack a Battletech terrain at some point.
Well, I've only designed some bits ages ago when I was dabbling with 3D printers and stuff, and I'd like to get back to it, but it's just like there's only so much time, you know. It's like video editing takes up, like if you record, if it's a 10-minute video, I can be guaranteed like a 10-minute battle report probably takes me at least 2 to 3 hours to edit and put up. You know what I mean? So it's like,
yeah,
painting miniatures, playing the game, enjoying the hobby. It's like you can only spread that butter so fucking thin, like, you know.
The
But
thing
it
that's
is
been
fun.
intimidating me is that, ostensibly speaking, as I understand it, like, is it only Alpha Strike where you don't do hexes?
No, you can use the base, like Total Warfare. There are conversion rules if you don't want to use hexes.
Although I must say I'm kind of attracted to the idea. The only thing was I was thinking if I wanted to do terrain, I would have to get a load of correctly sized hexes, and I was thinking about
No.
that would be
Alpha
a pain
Strike
in
is
the ass.
like freeform, and you could also do it so that you just scale the buildings to the mix.
Well, what I was thinking was very, very simple. I'm sure somewhere out there you could find some MDF company that will laser cut you an absolute crap ton of hexes,
Oh,
and
yeah,
then
probably.
you just build a board out of them, and then you put the terrain on top of it.
Well, see, a lot of the lads, what they did was back in the day, there was like this Heroescape game or whatever it was called. It was like a fucking, with hexes that are slightly bigger than what we're used to, but they were 3D terrain.
Mm.
And they bought up loads of sets of them back in the day. And
Although I am somewhat hesitant because I also plan to play quite a lot of Drop Zone. I've picked Resistance because Resistance is the Orky faction, and I was thinking about multi-purposing the terrain, so I had terrain for BattleTech. And
well, I mean, like we've played battles using the Drop Zone Commander city terrain, like the buildings. They're not too far out, like, you know what I mean, or using the city map tiles. Remind me, and I'll send you pictures of the Minicon, which was the convention we had in March, where myself and Lorcan brought along the Drop Zone Commander city tiles and the buildings, and we had a game of Alpha Strike using the Drop Zone Commander terrain. So like it works, you know.
shit.
It's big, but it's not too far out. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh my god, have you not tried yet?
What are we saying? Here we go. Back in the day, would White Dwarf give plans to make a Baneblade and various other orc battle wagons just out of Plasticraic? This is true. BC is saying now my Land Raider was a $20 eBay rescue that now has a Demolisher top half and a Tour top half. It's my big boom gun wagon proxy. I think I've seen that. that's the case. Conversion kits for Land Raiders and other vehicles. So if I was saying, remember that Lorcan, the Blitz cannon was just 3 hexagonal big pens glued together. Yeah. Lorcan is saying, a guy in Gamers World in Dublin made an amazing orc army where all the dreadnoughts were converted Wall-E toys and a truck was a homemade kit that transformed into Optimus Prime. I remember. Yes, I do remember taking a picture of that in a GaleCon many, many years ago. I'm trying to remember the guy's name.
I wonder if that was the one that was on the WoW forum. Presumably it was.
Maybe it was Optimus Prime, and he'd used I think he'd used Gundam or Mecha joints so that it did transform.
Yeah, but it was an orc truck kit, right?
It was an orc truck kit, yeah.
Yeah, painted very well.
Yeah, it was painted nice. Yeah.
I think it. Oh, I nearly had it there. Because I think because it's one of those things where like if you were an orc player and you were on forums back in the day, sort of like mid-noughties, you got exposed to a lot of stuff that was just really cool, and it'd do the circuits. Almost every forum would end up either they'd make an account themselves or buzz would get out and you would see quite a lot of amazing stuff. And I mean, his stuff was turned up on Google searches, but he did come into the war and he did post that amazing truck, and I saw pictures of it, and I did Google it like 2 years ago or so, probably even less, because sometime during lockdown when I was on the Discord, it's one of those things you mention. It's kind of actually quite tragic how difficult it is to find some of the old stuff from the old forum days, because there was some people on there who were stupid talented. There's a guy called the Snake who just used to make the most amazing kits from Plasticraic, and he could make something that wouldn't fit into an Imperial Guard army, let alone the orcs. Like, just exclusively out of Plasticraic. He was stupidly good, and it's really, really hard to find his stuff. I think I found maybe one thing. Cruisers can be quite difficult these days, even, and Cruiser had quite a lot of exposure. Although Dread's got some Cruiser bits, so if you look at Dread's army, you'll see some of Cruiser's work.
I mean, I have a Cruiser bit myself, but it's in dire need of repair and refurbishment, you know?
I got some bits that were going to become something of a Cruiser build, but I never got a proper Cruiser thing. But you've got a little Cruiser, which is like his iconic Gargant.
Yeah, it's Force Gargant.
Really, really lovely model. There's pictures of that on Scarpia's website.
Yeah, that's still up. Fair play to Scarpia for leaving it up.
Garbo.org, I think it's called. Scarpia's Miniverse. You'll be able to find it on Google still, even though he doesn't really bother with it anymore.
I was all into model trains. Who else went into model trains? Fucking Aga went into model.
Agatheron, principally. Aga, yeah, he's got a YouTube channel. I cannot remember what it's called, but yeah, and he makes nice looking train stuff. But he was always stupidly good. I mean, he's the guy that ended up painting the Iron Squig off, which is another thing that Cruiser did. Where it was,
I remember that one. That was crazy looking, yeah.
Yeah, ridiculously awesome. We're talking about a load of things that we can't show you pictures. Top quality.
I think the Iron Squig. No, I think you can find images of the Iron Squig.
Yeah, the Iron Squig off you can Google. It will turn up if you type Cruiser and Iron Squig.
It was pretty much like a quad stomper with a construction sort of bucket chomper for a head.
Yeah, and a massive wrecking ball tail.
Yeah,
it's just a really, really nice model. And it went to 3 different people after Cruiser was done with it before it ended up with the guy who bought it. I think it was Morfang Daka who bought it. But BC's saying not nearly enough Daka and model trains. If you pick the right World War II train, there might be enough Daka.
Armored trains, Jesus, they were a terrible idea.
It's just like
Very orky,
never
but
really-
boy Jesus, were they terrible.
oh yeah, orky. But like the thing I never understood is like when you build something with a gun that you want portable, the idea is that you can move it to where the battle is. With a train, you're like, oh, I can move this to a battle that is next to a railroad. So all you need to do to counteract that is
destroy
never
the
fight a battle
railroad.
near a
Is
railroad.
destroy
or
the
destroy
railroad. Yeah.
Assuming you didn't have the wherewithal to destroy the railroad, you just don't go near it.
But even still, like, just derail it. Oh, game over, lads. You know what I mean? I mean, great concept idea, idea-wise, but...
Well, it's like half of the German tanks that were in World War II. Like, awesome, but impractical.
True. Essex is asking, what is the scale of Battletech? For example, how big would the mech scars painting be in real life? The Orbimech is teeny weeny. Battlemechs are 10 to 14 meters in size in universe, says Lorcan. The Orbimech would be on the 10 meter side. Yeah, small. Battletech is roughly 1 in 285th scale. That's true. So, do I have the infantry? Does he have the infantry stand? I have a stand of infantry. And then the light reappears. And then we shall show the infantry. So, there's our mech, and there's our squad of infantry. These guys, I think, are a bit big for 6mm, but like they're the original sort of old school infantry. Thankfully, Lorcan sorted this out. And that's what we have. These boys here. So that's the size you're comparing, really. In and around. I do actually have some GHQ vehicles. So this is, I think it's a German truck. But that's a 1 in 285th scale, like one of those big, massive fucking 8-wheeler trucks. About that size, yeah. Ordered in from the States because I was like, oh, do you know, it'd be great if we did like a raid on a base if there was like actually trucks logistically. So there you go. Look, compared to a truck. Whereas the Grasshopper's a bit bigger. Is she? Just depends on the mech. But this is the good thing about the new scopes is they're all in scale with each other, you know. Whereas old mechs, that wasn't such a thing. that wasn't as big a thing being scaled with each other. Or can I say the thing is, miniature scale and map scale are very different. The hex on the map is 20 meters across, but a mech it clearly isn't 20 meters wide. This is true. Map scale and mech scale are a really big difference, and you really notice it with drop ships because a map scale drop ship might only be about yay big, but a mech scale one is like fucking bigger than a football. Like they're pretty. You really notice it with the drop ships, the difference in scale between map and mech scale. Look, they're saying need a model of a Schwergustav on the train tracks. Is it worth mentioning there are stats for armor trains in Battletech? Yeah, there's stats for everything in Battletech. That's the beauty of it. PC is saying, so you're saying the idea of for a subway gun wagon may not fly. I mean,
I suppose it'll dig.
Someone will dig it all right.
Yeah. It'll fly if you snap some fucking rockets to it.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Right, where's that brush gone?
So that was a question on the all community Discord. Is like, how fast does a stomper move? And
well, what's the terminal velocity of it then?
About the same as a African swallow, I think.
Laden or unladen?
I don't know that.
Oh God. Yes, Monty Python references. Yes.
We've really got our Python.
What if it had wings? What the
Yes.
Orbimech? Yeah, Lamb Orbimechs would be cool.
I think he means the subways though, But yeah.
The subway trains.
Yeah, so, yeah.
I would like a full 12 urban mechs painted up and marching forth in all of their slow. What's their movement profile? 122 glory, I think it is. I think they can run 2, jump 2.
Not a clue.
S6 boys, so train at that scale could be easy. Yes, train could be cool. You could knock them out pretty easy. This is back from when I bothered to do like 3D sort of buildings. This is roughly not too far off. You could like knock a load of them out. I tried to basically that like door was scaled to like a 6-foot person, so I think the scale is not too far off. This would be like a level 1, like a 2-story building kind of. So it's an abstract piece as well, but I wanted it to look good at the same time. I really do need to get back to designing more of them and printing a shitload of them because it was fun. But I need space for a printer. Whey! An old workshop wouldn't go miss. So it wouldn't. So if I saying Urban leaping majestically using puny jump jets, exactly. Especially the AC-20 versions. Surprise, motherfucker! It would be hilarious. Orkin is saying, with Total Warfare, they standardised the size of drop ships on a ground map. Any aerodyne is 3 hexes long, any sphere is 3 hexes across. I think 10 levels across. Top scale resin miniatures are limited to that footprint. Mark is saying, and Orby with a partial wing would take the enemy by surprise. Actually, yeah, that would be quite interesting. The old partial
I kind
wing.
of think with how heavily armored the Irby is, it's kind of like a situation of well, they don't so much as fly as plummet.
Well, maybe, yeah, you drop them, you do a low flying pass in your leopard dropship or whatever and just kick them out the side and they just fall gracefully towards the enemy. Oh. Urban Mech's 232 move. Pretty sure at least one has improved jump jets. Yeah. There are some interesting
I'm going to
variants.
camera. Be ready for the is it Dim? Is it Demis Roussos?
It might be both.
Mad as a rush. Yeah, 12 Urban Mechs. That would be fun. And give them variations between AC-20s and AC-10s and just, just for a lol. A lol game. Doable. It's not. It's got the aerodynamic of a can. Yeah, flying brick. You know what I mean? Just depends how much momentum you put into it. Pair of googly eyes. Can't go wrong. But yeah, it'll be fun. I'm looking to get more battle reports done for the old channel. I have a couple in the pipeline that just need to be edited up. So I'm a bit ahead of myself at the moment. But hopefully going through the year, my plan is to do like one video and still do the hobby hangouts every 2 weeks if possible. And then try and get 2 videos out in the other week. So like I'm thinking maybe like a Wednesday and then a hobby hangout on a Sunday, or if the hobby hangout isn't happening, then like a video on the Wednesday and then the other video on the Sunday. Get it consistent, lads. You know what I mean? Because I don't know what the hell's happened to me. You know, making a video a day for like 20, 24 days, 25 days for the Salvage Box event has kind of conditioned me to be like, I should be making videos. Why am I not making videos? I should be painting mix is what is what the conditioning should be now this year. I should be painting mix. What am I doing? I should be painting mix. Not playing Valheim. I should be painting mix.
No, play Valheim.
Nah, down with that sort of thing. Boo, there's hobby to be done. Enough with your video games. Madcat is saying, is there an Orbital Lance with different variants coming out this year? Yeah, there is going to be a box set coming out with different variants and stuff. See what's in it. So if I was saying, I thought the Orbital mechs were originally made as balls for the Steiner Atlas NFL team. Mark Hall is asking, why am I working on an Orbi? Well, like, why not? What have you got against Orbis?
Urbies are best. You know, just fact.
I mean, they're terrible mix, but they're great crack.
No, they're great. They're the best. You're wrong. You're all wrong.
You're all wrong. This has come from the man who loves snotling teams and Blood Bowl. It's like, yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
What's your point? So if I was saying video games are hobby too, true, but video games don't get me mix painted.
Clint was the one with the snotling team. I had the goblin team.
Ah, yeah, but you love snotling teams though.
Great. They're so stupid. Great.
They're so bad, it's brilliant. I suppose if they're so
a bad team.
Yeah,
they're not a bad team. Like the thing to remember is that, like, I mean, granted, anybody who doesn't play Blood Bowl is not going to care about this, but they've all got sidestep, which is the most infuriating ability in the game.
Yeah, it is. And they're small as well, aren't they? So they're a pain in the fucking hole to try and catch.
They've got like a 2+ dodge into every square. I mean, granted, anybody who fights them with a block, hits them with a block, is rolling 3 dice and picking. But you know, you may roll 3 dice and get 3 pushbacks, at which point I move that snotling into a square that I want.
Of your choosing as well. Yeah.
And unless you've got grab, you're not doing anything about it. That's what's happening. It's delightful. Although it's also why I wasn't particularly fond of the Black Orc team that came out, because they gave them all grab, because of course they did.
Orkin saying the fireball is the mix size football. Mark's giving out because you've got 24 other mechs to go into a unit. I do, yeah, and I've picked some of them. Look. Well, actually, I suppose the Grasshoppers, the King Crab, and this new Archer of the Alpha Strike box set were none of the mechs from the Savage box. So fair point. But, you know, the pile grows. I mean, I'm going to have to eat into that sort of celebrations box of mechs. And decide on colour schemes, I suppose. I best do up some different clans. And some Inner Sphere. The two Banshees, an Archer, and what else was I putting in that lens? I had like an Atlas, 2 Banshees, and I was thinking maybe a Marauder. The Marauder 2. I don't know. There's like an interesting lances that could be done. D-Sun Snoggoth is here. Snoggoot. With a wah. What's the crack, bud? Wah to you too. Sadly, I'm not painting 40k orcs. Because, you know, Battletech. I mean, we could do...
We could Battletech.
Yeah, exactly, Battletech. Have you heard of our Lord and Saviour Battletech? There was the Kodiak and the Irish football kit back in the Models Inc. crew. Ooh. So if I was saying sidestep, I despise it. Essex is saying sidestepping is awesome. Yeah, it can be interesting.
It was very irritating in our game, I'll say that. Even though I knew it would happen and was, like, you know, expecting it.
It's not so much that, you know, it's the getting to choose where you get pushed back to. So, like, you can do some absolute shenanigans maneuvering wise.
Well, I got so sick of Clint using the Essex using the sidestep that when one of his players was near the end of a pitch, I took a load of players out of position that I probably shouldn't have done because he scored shortly after, and
Just a
and
guarantee you got the push off board.
Clear off, just so we got pushed off the pitch.
So what's that take? That probably takes like 5 players, because if you only do 3, they'll diagonally sidestep out of the way.
Yeah, I think it was 5.
Jesus. Yeah, that really was spiteful at that stage. It's like, fuck that guy in particular.
Well, he kept on like knocking out my flipping trolls with bloomin' throwing rocks during the kickoff events.
Oh.
But yeah, our Blood Bowl game is very, very excellently documented on Essex's channel. Plug. Well worth a watch, because I mean, I sometimes have Blood Bowl games that don't always end up fun, but it's rare. And when you've got like a Snotling team versus a Goblin team,
you're nearly much guaranteed fun at that stage.
Yeah. Some of the teams I find a little bit boring. I don't like watching dwarfs being played, and I don't like playing against them, because it's just like they have one tactic: they beat the shit out of you, because you can't get rid of them because they've got thick skull and block, so you never get rid of them. And they beat the shit out of you, and if they do it well enough, they remove pretty much all your players from the pitch, and then they pick up the ball and walk it across the line. That's literally the only tactic they've got.
So your tactic to fight against dwarfs is score early and score often, I take it.
Yeah. You try and outplay them the best that you can, and you can. They don't have the pace largely to deal with you if you get through their line. But good luck getting through their line. Making openings with a dwarf team is very, very difficult, so you've kind of got to run around them. But I have beaten dwarf teams several times using like Shaman and Dead and a couple of other teams, so it's entirely doable. Can just be a little challenging sometimes.
Oh, sure.
I was honestly thinking about edge highlighting this freaking thing. Why am I thinking about edge highlighting a bloody mech fall?
I mean, you can.
Crazy.
There's nothing stopping you.
Nah, my hands shake way too much for that to be a thing.
So what are you painting up? You're doing the locusts.
Yeah.
I see what you mean about that black primer. There is a lot of gloss going on there.
Yeah, and that's just the it's the where have you gone? It's this one. It's the game color one. The game color black. It's very, very glossy. So if you have that and the game color, the model color black, you've got the best of both worlds, because the model color black is quite nice.
That's super matte. Yeah.
But be wary if you are thinking, oh, I'm going to not, if you're thinking about not using GW paints. I mean, by this point, you've probably got your paints that you like and you're sticking with them, which is fair enough. But if you think about moving to GW, moving from GW to something else, if you move to exclusively like the Leon model color, you're gonna, or game color specifically, you're gonna have problems. Depending on what you paint, though, obviously. I mean, if you're painting like historical stuff, you set with model color, like. But
and you're using the extra opaques as well, are you?
Oh yeah. This is all extra opaques that I'm using at the moment. So extra opaque grey and then the golden brown for the cockpit. I'm doing a sort of yellowy color, and then I'll make it more orangey. I mean, I already like it though, so it's not bad.
Was it? I'm trying to remember. There was one of the units I fought against is a Mark unit, and they're like black like that, and then they've got like blue hot rod flames on like their arms and their legs. I think Lorcan may know. I forget the name of them though. I should know. I've only fought against them recently. That's in an upcoming battle report. If I remember correctly, that did not end too well for either side. It was pretty vicious, actually. Lisa is saying, Lord and Saviour, I'm working on my third Def Copta at the moment. Man. Essex is laughing his ass off. Tommy Grimboot is saying it's just a jump to the left and then a step to the right. Put your hands on your hips and you bring your knees into... Oh, Jesus. No, less of that. Oddly, I think of an old 90s metal banshee with an orc's head glued to it as a Meganob stand-in. Oh, okay. Lorcan is saying Hobby Git's gotten very quiet again. Has he? I'll have to check.
Have I?
I don't know, has he? The audio
No.
levels seem to be alright. Ah, I know what it is. Hold on. I think it's when it's the old guest cam close-ups. Do you want to speak there? We'll check it.
Oh, I can't say that. I'll just say this.
No, Jesus, we're right. It works. It's all good.
Just going to do gratuitous swearing and then remembering.
Well. Tommy is saying I'm having tons of issues with the big army painter set. So inconsistent. Like, I bought me missus the army painter set, and I know Steve-O swears by the army painter stuff. Like the mega paint set I bought, or that I bought the I bought a load of these speed paints, but I haven't tried them yet. But in my eyes, they can't be any more inconsistent than the Games Workshop contrast paints, because holy Jesus, they were bleeding shocking. They were. Reconnected, disconnected. What's going on here? Absolutely shocking. Lorcan is saying that's a Fed Sons unit, the Kestrel Grenadiers. Ah, right, the Federated Sons. So they're not Mark then. But it was a cool paint job, though. I might actually paint up a unit of them myself. I quite like the whole Hot Rod paint jobs. Mask Air is saying I had some javelins with orc parts as cyborgs for Tour Dead. Oh, nice. Tommy is saying I bought metal balls and a shaker gadget. The reds are pissing me off. Yeah, you really do. I think Army Painter listen though, and there's I think they've incorporated shakers. Like I said, I don't usually I lean towards Vallejo, or lately I've been messing around with these AK acrylic colours. That's what I've been painting these bios up in. These are AK colours. But like I said, Steve-O swears by the old Army Painter. He bleeding loves them, he does. Look at that. Look at that for a Night Star. Holy Jesus. You would not believe how many mechs this Night Star has head capted with those Gauss rifles. Quite a few. Quite a few.
Actually, I thought edge highlighting with these was going to be difficult, but
No, it shouldn't be. It should be grand.
it's not too bad actually. It's working all right.
Edge highlighting is pretty reasonable on some of the mechs. It just depends on the mech and the sculpt. I have to say, I do actually really like the Urban Mech sculpt. It's a great sculpt. It's very crisp. It's got that sort of, I don't know, maybe it's got that sort of chibi look to it, I suppose. But it's really good. I like it. It looks kick-ass.
I like it. I like an Irby. I really do like the Irby.
I love the AC20 Orby because it's like, you can't
ignore it.
Such a small guy packing such damage, and you've only got 5 rounds with it. But boy, Jesus, if it hits, someone's gonna be going home crying.
That game we played where we were just like played a mech until it died, and then got a fresh mech.
Yeah,
and I think I got 2 kills with it.
Oh, I remember we were because there was 3 or 4 of us playing, and I remember I got a Wolverine, I think. And then you just like stripped most of the center torso armor out with a hit from the AC20. And it was a pretty hard shot as well. I remember. I wasn't expecting to be hit. And it's like, oh, well, now I have to play super cautiously. Oh, thanks for that.
I pushed my luck a little bit, but the wonderful thing about the Irby is because of that movement to jetpack, you can't do a whole lot, but you can creep up and then pop out of terrain and get a shot off.
True.
And that combined with, all its other factors means that it's easily underestimated, but then it fires. And then after it's fired once, it probably can't be ignored. Which kind of I like that as a concept. That's pretty much what got me into Gretchen hordes in the first place. Because back in the sort of 4th ed days, particularly it was really good once we got the 4-fed codex and they got the ballistic jump to ballistic skill
3, wasn't it?
skill 3, which these days would be ballistic skill 4+. And like you know, like people would look at the stat line of the Grot Blaster and think, oh, that's rubbish. It's only strength 3, no AP. What's it gonna do? Yeah, I've got 30 of them, and I've got 4 mobs of 30, and you've got in point blank range, and I'm not hitting on 5s, and you just found out. There's a few people who just assumed that I'd be hitting on 5s because orcs.
Oh yeah, they're used to the orc shooting just being
Yeah.
shocking. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned in the in one of the War Bosses episode about a guy who was like had a Drago wing and wasn't expecting it.
It didn't end too well for him.
Yeah, it did not. Some of the jammiest and some of the unluckiest rolling was required for it to really work, but it was still funny. And I always remember that story because it's one of those cases where you sometimes forget games like that, but if the guy was a prick beforehand,
Right.
fucking
Okay.
really hard to remember it.
So it made it all that much sweeter then.
Oh, it was one of the sweetest victories I've ever had. I remember an awful lot of defeats because most of the time that I met a git, I would lose. Quite often, quite a lot of my negative gaming experiences all come from the Middlesbrough Games Workshop store. Oddly enough,
Middlesbrough.
yeah, they've always had like a toxic power gamer mentality over there.
Yeah, but how far out was Middlesbrough from where you were?
Well, I was at uni there, so that's why.
Ah, okay. That
but,
sort of
uh,
explains things a bit better. I'm like, you don't live in Middlesbrough.
many moons ago. And then for a time, I lived in a little place called Newton Aycliffe, which is you can jump on a train and be in Middlesbrough in half an hour.
Ah, okay.
It had like a weird old train line that's still running that runs to a town in County Durham in the middle of nowhere.
My cat is asking, are you looking forward to the catless vehicles coming out soon? Totally. It'd be great crack.
Oh yes.
I think most of us are.
Yeah.
Orkin saying he's looking forward to them. Mask Air saying, yep. I'm a bit iffy on the coming on hex bases, but other than that, I'm kind of the same myself, Lorcan. I find it a bit odd that they're coming on bases, but I think it'll be interesting.
I hate to drag it back to 40k again.
Ah, Jesus, bud.
But like, I think something has to be said about consistency. Like, and one of the issues I've had with like sort of the direction with 9th and 8th is that almost everything goes on a base, like apart from tanks. And I'm just like, yes, I know that if you buy a tank, you get a big base. You'd be spending an awful lot of money that you shouldn't really need to spend on basic materials for like just a vehicle that could probably stand on its own. But at the same time, like, you know, everything having that unified look, you know.
Yeah, I suppose it is going to be consistent then across the board.
And also the other thing is like, I mean, granted, with tanks, it's probably quite easy to justify facing, but it's that thing with Battletech. I mean, I know not every version of the game has the facing on the hexes as necessarily a thing, but I quite like that.
Well, it'd be interesting. I wonder if you'd be able to take them off them, because like for the likes of Alpha Strike, you don't really need those, especially for vehicles.
I mean, I'm somewhat kind of a bit slightly upset because I am planning to. I've been considering multitasking some of my drops on commander stuff to represent like tanks and things.
Yeah, but you can get hexes separately as well. Like you can buy them or just I mean, you've got a resin 3D printer. You have no excuse.
Yeah, well, I was about to say I was waiting for you to finish, but like, I've not really got an excuse because I can just throw the printer up and get some bases printed off.
Yeah, exactly. Plenty of bits and pieces that can be printed up. A green grasshopper. Who would have thought? I like this green from AK. It actually covers black really well, and it's pretty vibrant.
Ooh. Each highlight's working all right.
Mascara saying the Demolisher looks mean, and the new variant with the Ultra AC20s is nasty. I'm sure you can pop them off like the mix. Yeah, I'm sure you probably could. It'd be pretty easy. I'm very curious about what the aerospace fighter is going to be, says Lorcan. Oh, that's true. We'll see what we get. He reckons it'll be a Visigoth, but maybe not. My cat is thinking a clan fighter. Mask is saying a Batu. Lorcan is saying Ray Aresta has said it's not an inner sphere fighter. Ooh. My cat is saying I can't remember who was talking about it. And Grey Primer has returned. Hello, Nick. What is the crack? We are painting Armex green. We were talking about Blood Bowl at one point in time there, but you missed out, I'm afraid.
Well, I'll talk about it any time.
We were talking about snotlings and sidestepping, but we've moved on to what the new aerospace fighter is going to be in the next Kickstarter, and interested in what it may or may not be. Orkin is saying, I'm not going to mount all of my metal vehicles on bases, so for consistency's sake, I guess I won't be mixing the metal and plastic miniatures in units unless I drop them off. Yeah, I don't have a desire to do the same. I don't have a lot of vehicles, but the ones I do have, I don't really want to put them on hex bases. Like, I like the visual look of vehicles just directly on the table. Do you know what I mean? The basis for the mechs looks okay to me. I don't know why. Maybe it's because mechs have always been on bases in my eyes. But the vehicles, actually, I like the look of the vehicles not on bases, you know? And you can generally tell what the facing is as well, I suppose. I mean, ultimately, that's what it would be consistency in regards to facing. But then you've got like VTOLs. VTOLs are nearly always going to be on bases as well because of the flying stands. And your aerospace fighters, they tend to be on hex bases as well. So, I mean, it's not too much of a stretch for tanks and the like. But it's not going to be the end of the world either. You know what I mean?
Not too bad, actually.
Give us a look. Give us your look here, Mick. How's she coming? She's out of focus. Towards the cutting mat, my good man. There you go. Oh, very nice.
Trying to get the
on the highlights. Grey. Yeah, no, they're popping up. I can see them there. Are you going to do any battle damage? I like to do like sponge weathering, especially around the feet area. My thinking being like most of the wear and tear in them is going to be around the feet and lower limbs, just from like walking around and, you know, brushing off of stuff. Well, oh, Jesus. Look at you. I mean, it's a bit big for the mechs, but I'm sure.
I'll just break it off.
I know. Don't worry.
One of the wonders of like top hobby tips, seeing as I'm a hobby guy and that's what I do. Be on the lookout in like your various sort of online shops for cheap hobby kits that are designed for Gundam people. Because they tend to have half decent tools in them.
They do.
And because they're aimed at a niche market, you can normally get them for a decent price, and there'll be decent sort of tools and stuff in them. I've started swearing by those made for Gundam kits because it's just like, you know, they're pretty good. Certainly kick the crap out of GW's ones.
I mean, I've got some of those like reverse locking, self-locking tweezers, and I bought like a Tamiya one, which is a bit steep, but it's nice. And I bought like a Craft Hobby one, which is just as good, to be honest with you, but it was like half the price. But it's just a case of, you know, wanting to buy off of local retailers, so it just really depends what's in stock, and of course the cheaper option will be cleared out before the more expensive option.
Yeah, I don't know where my hobby tweezers are. Normally I've got them handy. But the hobby tweezers that I use, I think I got them from one of them value sets.
I even
But
have one there.
the only thing I tend to blow money on tends to be files.
Oh, well, you ripped through the old files there.
I certainly used to. I haven't in a while, but yeah. When I was doing lots of kit bashing, there was lots of needing to file roughly cut plastic so that I could get things to fit together when my ambitions were a bit optimistic. Although broadly speaking, I tend to have a good eye for stuff like that. But I mean,
What, were you roughing up the edges of Plasticraic? Is that what you were using them for? Or?
Oh no, I was thinking for like when I was kit bashing, because I would saw bits up and then file them down for connections, or because it was a bit that was going to be slightly protruding and maybe not part of a join.
Yeah, okay, I get
like
you.
that. But also, yeah, plasticard.
Because I found using like a rotary till was the best way for weathering the edges of them.
For weathering, I tend to use Dremel. If it's
use a
big.
Dremel, because holy Jesus, otherwise me bleeding me hands, me poor hands.
But for neatness, and I generally like neatness, even when I'm making orc things, I like them to look neat. I tend to use files just because I have more control over that. Then I'm never worried about using something that's quick when it comes to building and hobby, because that is the thing that I tend to enjoy more than anything else.
That's the aspect for you. Yeah. So if you're enjoying the hobby for the game, you're more inclined to enjoy the game, I take it.
Yeah, but unfortunately, if I find the game's upsetting me, it can also affect my hobby mojo.
Well, I mean, I can understand that, because it takes me to sort of enjoy playing a game to sort of want to do hobby for it.
Yeah, but I mean, like in the case of like 40k, it completely killed my desire to do any hobby.
Well, I mean, yeah, I'd agree with you there. Like, I wasn't enjoying how the game played, so it killed me hobby, which is interesting, because after we did like our meetup or weekend or whatever, I enjoyed it, and then I found myself painting Storm Boys and Orc Boys and stuff. You know what I mean?
I came back with kind of like a different thing happened to me. Initially, I had a meltdown, really, because I just had a what the fuck am I doing with my life moment afterwards, and it was not good, and I was quite bitter. And
just need to let go, man. Just embrace the
well,
hobby.
that's kind of what I did. I took a bit of time off. I've started a new diet. I started a new year. I just kind of like I did what I often do. I kind of drift away and think. You know, like I spend an awful lot of time just thinking and weighing up the pros and cons.
New you for the new year, was it?
Yeah. Although I don't really like those kind of things. Like nothing I hate more than GW's marketing of like new year, new army. Yeah. No thanks.
New levels of personal debt. Yeah.
Although to be fair, I suppose it is a new army because I'm playing for a load of games that I haven't really played before the new year kicked in. Granted, I've had some drop zone stuff for a while, but I am finally going to get that played this year.
You haven't played it yet, no?
No, well, the thing is when I sort of like decided to call quits on 40k, which is probably mid last year, and then I flitted between I'm back, I'm not, I'm back, I'm not, and now I'm just kind of very firmly no more modern 40k. I'm done. I've given up. I'm not going to go back. I'm not even going to entertain any of the new editions. I'm just going to move on with my life and do what I want to do instead. And you know, midway through that, I was kind of like not really thinking about any tabletop games and placement. I've been playing an awful lot of board games because board games are feature complete.
Yeah, they're fun. I mean, there are board games where it's like expansion number 7, yay!
Well, yeah, we've been playing a lot of the ones that have like crap tons of expansions. There's 7 Wonders, Christ. There's loads for 7 Wonders, but we've been loving it. Same with Paranoid Pandemic. Pandemic's a really good one.
Mm.
We're on a massive losing streak with that at the moment. We haven't won in ages.
Well, it's pandemic. You're not supposed to bleed and win.
I mean, when normally we do pretty well. We've had quite a good win rate for it for quite a while, but and it's not like we've just been playing the most difficult mode. We've been jumping between sort of like easy and challenging, and we just had some rotten luck. But that's one of the things I love about Pandemic is that every game is entirely unique, and all sorts of stuff that can happen that really screw you over.
I mean, I haven't played Pandemic in a very long time. I think I played it back when it first sort of came out in the early 2000s. I think it was like 2008, 2007, something like that. Wasn't it?
We've been playing it with the In the Lab expansion, which basically just changes the way that you cure the disease. So it's not just it's more involved than collect 5 of a particular color of card and then just cure it. You've actually got to use the cubes that you cure, and you kind of put them into like a sort of petri dish system, which requires action economy, and you move the cubes around in limited but slightly flexible ways, and you have to like complete card sets using cubes.
Why does it sound like you have made the game more complicated again?
Oh yeah. But that's kind of the point. Like, it's the thing I love about Pandemic is that like there's always more layers of complexity you can add it in to prevent it from getting stale. But I've been playing a whole variety of tabletop games. I've got a bunch of ones that have miniatures, but we need to get my finger out and get some of them painted. And I've not really played them because the models aren't painted. Like I've got the new game that's based on the Aliens film, which is very space hulky, as you might imagine.
Right.
And then I've got Nemesis, which is very much space hulky and totally not aliens inspired. And
I think Lorcan has that, and I think we've played that.
yeah, it looks amazing. I've read the rules, and it looks like a lot of fun. But it's also one of those games where it's nominally co-op, but with traitors.
Mm.
So
see, I'm not too enamored with board games where it's like it's co-op and then there's traitors within, because the likes of House on Haunted Hill or whatever, or what's the other one, the D&D version of it?
Betrayal on the House on the Hill and Betrayal of Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, those ones. Because I always tend, anytime I've played those games, it's like two people have probably played it. One kind of knows board games, and then somebody's like, "Oh, I've never played board games before." And then, lo and behold, when someone becomes the traitor, it's like the person who's never played the game before, and they're like, "Eh."
Yeah, I mean, Betrayal's fun once you get.
I mean,
into
it's
it.
like the game's fun if you've all played it before, but it's one of the core weaknesses in that style of game that I've found personally when playing is like, if somebody's not used to playing board games or is not used to playing that game,
I tend to avoid ones where there are traitors, just because typically when you've got ones where they're traitors, you've got to keep that. You're obviously keeping that secret because it's part of the mechanics of the game. You need to keep secret who the traitors are so that people can't easily counter what you're doing. And if I'm the traitor, I am absolutely terrible at
keeping it stum.
keeping it. Well, that's the problem actually, because I go quiet. Everybody knows. Because obviously 9 times out of 10, there's no shutting me up. So second I
But
go quiet.
this is true. So
Thinking too
something's
much.
up when you're staying quiet
Yeah,
for once.
he's thinking too much. So because he's thinking too much, he's obviously a
He's
traitor.
up to something. He's up to something. All right. So Essex is saying for weather and Plasticraic, I always use a craft knife. Not sure I should get another dewback or get a Palpatine. That's for the Star Wars stuff. Nick from Great Primer saying I'm only in it for the kits, so I'm mostly insulted from bad games unless the game has crappy minis. Lorcan is saying be careful of your friend Palpatine and your pal friend Patine. Oh, more terrible jokes. Lorcan is saying I have Nemesis and Lockdown on all the expansions, so we need to get an in-person game going. We do at a con eventually. It'll happen, honest goof.
The thing, just to get back to the thing of like generally liking matches, I tend to have the same opinion, very much so. I tend to have the same opinion of board games, or at least I thought I did. And then I actually played a bunch of the board games that don't use matches, and like, I would say give it a try. But I mean, that said, there are so many great board games out there that have lovely matches that you know, that's kind of a cool thing. But variety is the spice of life with board games. I find like what you want to do is what you ideally want if you've got like a board gaming circle, if you have that, is if you're dead into miniature games, you get yourself some. And I mean, obviously, you'll probably only have one or two games because unless you made of money, they're very expensive. They're way more expensive than most other board games. But then between your other friends, you should ideally be able to
share the load
yeah,
price wise
share the
on.
load and get like and they can get like different types of games. Because I find with my sort of like that's one of the things that sort of I've kind of landed on my feet a little bit with my local gaming club because like a lot of the people who are the traditional gamers, they're quite power gaming, but there's now a bit of a crowd that are into board games. So I've not touched a tabletop war game in about a year and a half. I've not needed to because we just play board games all the time, and like certain people are into certain things. The one thing I'll say is you can end up with problems because some people will be weak at certain games. Like probably the area where I see the most kind of people not really enjoying it because they find themselves not good enough at it is things like word games. Although I love word games, I love the word games. I love Chameleon. I love Codenamed. I love what's that? A Poetry for Neanderthals is fun. Where you've got to describe things using one syllable words, which is just a lot of fun.
Yeah, see, I'd say word games are probably my least favorite. But I'll still play them.
I mean, I really like Chameleon because it's there's an element of bluffing and you can bring trivia to it and stuff. Because you basically you'll have a card and it'll be a broad category. It's always a broad category, and then so it'll be like say school. It'll be school or school subjects, right? So you know that whatever it's going to be a school subject, and you've got a grid, and then you hand out a bunch of cards, and however many players you've got, up to 8. All of those but one will have a sort of a special grid reference. And you've got 2 sets of cards, so it's harder to memorize the grid set, and it'll not be exact. And you roll like a D8 and a D6, and then you consult the grid, and it shows you specifically which of the specific sections on that card you've got, and that will refer to a specific thing in that wider category. So, for instance, you'll have school subjects, and then you might roll the dice, and it's mathematics, right? And what you do as players is you all go into it, and one of you's the chameleon, so you don't have a grid. You've just got a card that says you are the chameleon. So you have to pretend that you know specifically which one it is. But the players all have to use a word or phrase when it comes around to, and everybody says it at the same time, so you don't really have time to react. You have a little bit, but not much. And and you want to say something that proves that you know which specific one it is, but you want to try and not be too obvious, because if the chameleon is caught, they get a chance to guess the specific word or the specific term, and if they get it right, they get the points and they win. So you have to
Game of bluff.
Yeah, it's a really, really fun game. And I've got a very straightforward strategy, which is I always go obscure, weird trivia. And I'm either making it up or telling the truth.
Hmm.
And people hate it, which is just music to my ears. I just freaking love to troll people when I'm playing games. It's like the best.
And you wonder why. Ah, bless. Cypher said, yeah, the Alien games look like the sculpts were good too. Oh, the Alien board game, yeah, that did look pretty cool.
They're decent. I have to say the plastic quality ain't great, and how they come together is a pain in the backside. But they're not bad. They're not bad. I've seen worse.
Lorcan is saying you can play Nemesis as a regular co-op, just everyone has objectives and you need to do them all. The thing with Nemesis is everyone has a good and a bad objective and you can choose which you want to do. Oh, okay.
It's a game with a lot of layers, and there's so many expansions. I've got loads of them. It's not got played because I want to chuck some paint on the matches first, because they deserve it. They're some of the nicest matches that I've encountered for board games.
What's that Rage game like that you have?
Hate.
Or Hate, sorry.
Yeah, I've never actually played it. I mainly use the matches for D&D. Oddly enough, they're very.
Is
very
that like a
useful.
self-contained board game, or is it a tabletop war game, or what's its shtick?
It's kind of like a skirmish game. It's a skirmish campaign game that's a board game. It's really weird. It's odd, very odd, and you've got like a tribe. It's very brutalist and dark, and they go for like kind of a gory sort of attitude to it, and you're trying to murder all the other tribes, and there's a campaign, and you can it's a game that's not a million miles away from it, that's based on Ragnarok, but that's more of an abstract map game, whereas this is like literally a skirmish game where you've got like a board and you move around the terrain and you fight each other, and you can go into each other's campsites and murder the civilians in the campsite to buff your characters. Stuff like that. It's a properly brutal game. I've tried it out a little bit, but I've barely used them for what they're intended. They're just nice minis to have. I've got
So that was a Kickstarter, was it?
Yeah, I've got a funnily enough, another Kickstarter thing is what I've used it for, because I've got a kickstarted 5th edition D&D Norse setting campaign and sort of campaign books, and I made my own sort of storyline based initially very loosely on the film 13th Warrior, and kind of took it from there. And I've got and that I'm running that at the moment actually, and the hate models came in very, very useful. My players have actually been in a few battles, which you wouldn't think would work with D&D, but if you make a couple of very small changes, it can actually work all right.
So, Essex is saying the missus got the new Hero Quest for Christmas. Can't wait to give it a crack. The Sheriff of Nottingham is a great family board game, and King of Tokyo. I haven't played them. I like playing Splendor. My missus likes playing Splendor as well. That's a good one. So if I was saying the odds on these two playing Warhammer 40k Monopoly, slim. BC was saying, so
I
go on.
despise Monopoly.
You despise, oh, okay, well then that's not going to happen. I love Monopoly, but there you go. BC is saying, so Dim was the trader all along. Hey! D-Sun is saying D&D minis are always needed. Sci-Fi is saying, sounds a bit like Necromunda. I think he's talking about Hate. And BC is saying, so fun for the whole family. Indeed.
Not quite as 3D as Necromunda, but yeah, sort of.
Well, here is the progress I've managed to get so far tonight. I've managed to get some base in on the Owl Urban Mix. The Urban Lance has some base in on them. I've managed to sort out some of this lance with some green. The Grasshopper and the King Crab have a good chunk of green on them. It's a nice green, actually. It does look good when it's painted up. I think the Grasshopper actually looks really good in the green. I'm not too sure about the King Crab. I think it will look good because I like the Night Star looks sweet. So when it's painted up and then give them their stripes or whatever. How about yourself, Dim, or the Hobby Git, whatever you want to be called? We're going close up on your cam. How did you do progress-wise?
Right, hang on. If I just probably best to just
Give us all motion sickness. Yay! Blech.
I'm trying to figure out. That's probably made things worse, hasn't it?
Ah, you're grand.
There
you go. Don't move it anymore. Your Raven, your 2 Locusts. You're getting some paint down on them. What are you going to do for the bases? Like, what are you thinking of, like, base effects? Are you going?
I don't know. My default is to not normally go for snow, just because I've got like so much snow shit.
Well, I mean, snow would probably look good, actually. Yeah.
I wanted to do trees on the bases, but because the scale thing's weird.
Oh, you've gone green. Holy Jesus, he's gone green.
Oh dear.
Did you knock it? I think he knocked it.
Yeah. Hang on.
Sci-Fi is saying your mechs look like you've sneezed on them with a cold. Lava bases with OSL, says so. Mine look like I've sneezed on them when I cold, yeah, because it doesn't have that sort of... It's just the force coat over black. They're very green. Very luminous green, but green nonetheless. I don't know what Dim's done to his camera, but it's shit the bed. Hey! Something's happening. Something's coming alive. Lava bases with OSL. That would actually be kind of interesting. I like the ground effects, by the way, folks. I don't put gravel or whatever else on. I like using Vallejo's ground effects because the particulate in it is very fine, so it looks good scale-wise with the mix. Now, I know what you mean. Some people be like, oh, scale-wise, you know, worried about the scale of stuff on the base and the mech. I mean, visually, it just looks nice to me. To me, personally. You know, they're my mechs, so I get to throw base material on them. Hey, he's back. He's alive.
I swap camera because the other one's just plain silly buggers.
It's just died on you, has it?
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, I can't really show very well on there, but...
Hold on. What?
There's a lot of grey bad edge highlighting on them.
Ah, bad edge highlighting's better than no edge highlighting.
And a little bit of dry brush, but I'll fix it with the ink. That's how it works, isn't it? So I'm just starting on the catty, and the catty's intimidating.
Ray Primer is saying he's got some brilliant tiny trees from Amazon. They scale really well to Battletech. Ooh. Cool. Right, well, we're over our 2-hour mark. As fun as it's been, we could probably keep this up all night, but some of us have jobs to go to in the morning. So I hope you've all enjoyed it. Thanks for joining us for a hobby hangout. We're going to be doing every 2 weeks, so fortnightly on the Sunday, unless I've been, you know, unless there's an event on, like a Battletech tournament or something, we'll be doing hobby hangouts. And if there isn't, I'll do a video in replacement for it, so there'll be something going through. And we'll be getting ourselves more guests throughout the year, so we've a good few to go through. Hopefully we get a fair amount painted up. And poor Dim's camera has died again. But sure, what can you do? But thanks for joining in, folks. I hope you all got a lot done. And we'll catch you in the next one for 2 weeks from now. Take it easy.